The desert night was silent except for the sound of Aladdin's shallow breaths. He stood alone in the ruined marketplace where hours earlier, soldiers had beaten his closest friend for stealing bread. He had watched, powerless, as the man who had once shared his hunger and dreams was dragged away to the Sultan's dungeons. Rage burned in his chest, but beneath it was something far heavier, guilt. Aladdin had promised to find a better life for both of them. Instead, his friend was suffering, and Aladdin was left with nothing but empty hands and a heart drowning in shame. That was the night he stumbled upon the lamp. The discovery. Aladdin had been chased into the desert by guards, accused of crimes he hadn't committed. He collapsed among the dunes, certain his end had come. But when his hand brushed against something hard and metallic, half buried in sand, he pulled it free. It was an oil lamp, strange and heavy, with markings etched in a language he couldn't read. Desperation drove him to rub it, more out of frustration than hope. What followed shook him to his core. A blinding light erupted, and a figure rose from the lamp, towering above him like a storm-given form. The genie's voice thundered through the desert, "I am bound to you. Speak your wish, and it shall be so." Aladdin trembled, torn between awe and terror. For the first time, the impossible stood within reach. But as the genie's golden eyes bore into his own, Aladdin realized a deeper fear. What if the problem wasn't the world, but himself? What if no wish could change that? Main conflict, the weight of wishes. His first wish was simple, freedom for his imprisoned friend. The genie granted it swiftly, shattering the iron locks of the Sultan's cells and whisking the man away to safety. Yet when Aladdin found his friend again, instead of gratitude, there was bitterness. "You think magic erases pain," his friend spat, lifting his torn sleeves to show fresh scars. "You can't wish away what's been done. You're still the boy who runs while others bleed." The words cut deeper than any whip. Aladdin began to wonder if the lamp was a gift or a curse. When he wished for wealth, he was granted mountains of gold. But the merchants who once ignored him now bowed too deeply, their eyes calculating, their words false. When he wished for a palace, it rose overnight, yet within its walls he felt like a guest wearing stolen clothes. Even Princess Layla, the Sultan's daughter whose laughter once echoed like music through the gardens, looked at him with suspicion. "Who are you really?" she asked one evening, her gaze piercing. "The man who smiles at me, or the boy who hides behind magic?" Aladdin had no answer. The twist, the genie's secret. As weeks passed, Aladdin began noticing something strange. Each time the genie granted a wish, his expression darkened, as if some invisible weight pressed upon him. His booming voice softened into weariness, his golden form dimmed. One night, unable to bear his silence, Aladdin confronted him. "What happens to you each time I wish?" The genie's eyes flickered. For the first time, his voice trembled. "Every wish drains a fragment of me. I am bound by chains you cannot see, chains forged by your desires. When I am gone, so too will your world of miracles." Aladdin staggered back. He had been so consumed with his own emptiness that he had not seen the suffering before him. The genie was no endless well of power, but a prisoner bleeding himself dry for another's gain. "Why didn't you tell me?" Aladdin whispered. "Because hope is a crueler prison than chains," the genie said. The fall. The truth came too late. The Sultan, greedy for power, learned of the lamp and sent soldiers to seize it. Aladdin fought, but the palace crumbled around him. His treasures vanished like sand in the wind. Layla was dragged away, her voice echoing his name. In the chaos, the lamp slipped from his grasp and fell into the Sultan's hands. The Sultan's first command was for armies, his second for endless life, his third for kingdoms to bow before him. The genie obeyed, though each wish left him visibly diminished, his form flickering like a dying flame. Aladdin, cast into the streets once more, watched his city sink into fear. Soldiers patrolled every corner, people starved while the Sultan feasted on magic-born luxuries. Layla was locked in a tower, and his friend had vanished, unwilling to forgive. For the first time, Aladdin felt true despair, not for himself, but for the genie, bound to serve a tyrant until nothing of him remained. The turning point. Aladdin realized the lamp was not the treasure he thought it was. It was a mirror of every heart that touched it. In his hands, it had birthed illusions of worth. In the Sultan's hands, it birthed tyranny. But what if it could be more? He broke into the palace under cover of night, scaling the walls with nothing but his own hands, his own sweat. For once, he carried no magic, only determination. He reached the throne room where the Sultan gloated over his growing empire, the lamp gleaming at his side. With a cry, Aladdin seized it. The Sultan lunged, but Aladdin's grip was faster. He rubbed the lamp one last time. The genie emerged, weaker than ever, his golden skin cracked with shadows. "What is your wish?" he asked, voice barely a whisper. Aladdin met his fading eyes. "I wish for your freedom." The climax. The genie froze. No master had spoken those words in centuries. His chains shattered, dissolving into sparks that lit the hall. A roar shook the palace as the genie's form expanded, no longer bound, no longer fading. The Sultan screamed, demanding obedience, but the genie only laughed. His laughter was not cruel but wild, like a storm finally released. With a wave of his hand, the Sultan's riches crumbled into dust, his armies scattered into smoke. Then the genie turned to Aladdin. "Your wish has cost you everything, wealth, power, even the love you hoped to win. Why?" Aladdin bowed his head. "Because I finally understand. A man is not measured by what he can take, but by what he is willing to give." For the first time, the genie smiled. Conclusion, the reflection. In the days that followed, the Sultan vanished, his reign undone. The city began to heal. Layla was freed, though her path did not cross Aladdin's again. She chose to rebuild her people's lives, while he chose to wander, seeking redemption beyond palace walls. As for the genie, he departed into the skies, no longer bound, a streak of light against the horizon. Before he vanished, he left Aladdin with a final gift, not gold, not glory, but a simple truth whispered into his ear. The greatest magic lies not in the lamp, but in the heart that chooses who to be when no one is watching. Years later, Aladdin would sit by campfires with strangers, telling them stories of a lamp that could grant wishes. Some laughed, others leaned closer, but few understood the weight of his tale. And when the fire burned low and silence filled the desert, Aladdin would look up at the stars and wonder if the genie still watched over him. The lamp was gone, but the choice it had forced him to make remained. And in that choice, he finally found what he had always longed for, not riches, not love, but peace.